And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and once again, it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday. So we have a lot to talk about on today's show, as we normally do. Third show officially, so we're at that middle point in the week. Obviously, we got a game tomorrow, but we'll get into that obviously for tomorrow's show. But middle part of the week, we have a lot to discuss. But before that, just want to remind you guys to get your comments recognized, and for donations and tips, make sure to go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. And once again, for bonus coverage materials that are not covered by this live broadcast, make sure to go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network, and that's where you can find all of the exclusive content. So, like I said, have a lot to discuss today. In the first part of the show, we will talk about the current standings around the league. So we'll go through each division, the wild card race, and I'll give my thoughts on that. In the second part of the show, the main topic of the show is the power rankings were released this week. So we'll go through them, and I'll give my thoughts on that. And then in the third part of the show, we're going to talk about should Daniel Jones, the Giants quarterback, start on Sunday. So I'll give my thoughts on that as well. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the NFL stat leaders after Week 5. So that's pretty much what's on tap for today. So let's get right into the first topic of the show, which is talking about the current standings around the league. So it doesn't really matter what we start with, but we'll go through obviously both conferences. So we'll start in the AFC. So after this week, right now the Dolphins, they currently hold a 1-game lead over the Bills at 4-1. The Bills are 3-2, Jets 2-3, and the Patriots are 1-4. And I just had a first take on, and they were talking about who the favorites should be in this division. And one of the analysts was saying, like, you're crazy if you think any other team besides Buffalo, based off of how Buffalo played against Miami a couple of weeks ago. Now, I don't think it's really crazy if you say the Dolphins can win the division, and right now the Dolphins have the lead at the moment. Now, I think Buffalo, based on how they played against Miami a couple weeks ago, I think this is still their division to lose. That just shows that Miami is beatable. Miami still has some flaws. Specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey they traded for from the Rams, so and he hasn't played at all. I think he's supposed to be back at some point late in the season. But yeah, the Dolphins, they have some issues on defense. So there's that. And also, I mean, Josh Allen, I think most people will still say he's a better quarterback than Tua. But you know what? I think the Dolphins definitely, it's going to be close. I mean, it's going to come down to that final game when they play each other at Miami. Well, Week 18. That's the final week of the regular season. Those two teams will play each other. So that could very well decide who wins the division. Right now, I would lean towards Buffalo, but it's going to be very close. It's going to be very close. And then you got the Jets, who are 2-3. They do have some light games on their schedule coming up, but right now you kind of view them as a wild card team. And the Patriots, I mean, they are. We talked about it yesterday. They're in a downward spiral right now, and it's going to continue to head in that direction unless something something happens. But right now, the Patriots, they are in last place, and they're not going anywhere this year. I think it's safe to say that. So then we go on to the AFC North, and right now you have the Steelers, who are in first place at 3-2. The Ravens are tied with them, but the Steelers, of course, have the tiebreaker because they just beat them on Sunday. I think that's going to change. I don't think the Steelers are going to win the division. However, nobody's really running away with it. I mean, the Bengals, obviously, they picked up a huge win on Sunday. Right now, I look at them as the favorites to win the division. The Ravens have too many injuries right now. And obviously, if Joe Burrow continues to get healthier and healthier, heal himself up from the calf injury, then I look at the Bengals as the favorites. And obviously, when Jamar Chase has almost 200 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns, I mean, they're starting to click. So I look at them as the favorites. The Browns, Deshaun Watson still doesn't look right, and who knows if he's ever going to look right, really. So, and obviously Nick Chubb getting hurt, that really affects their offense and what they want to do. I mean, I still think they're going to run the ball well. Jerome Ford looks like he could still be, not obviously Nick Chubb level, but could still be a productive back. And, of course, they did bring back Kareem Hunt. So the running game is still good, and obviously you have Amari Cooper, who's gotten off to a great start as well. And their defense is very good. So, the Browns, they could still make some noise. Obviously, they continue to have Joe Burrow's number, but I don't see them winning the division. I think it's going to be either the Bengals or the Ravens. Steelers and Browns are looking more towards the wild card. But we'll see. I mean, the Steelers, if they can, get more, big plays like they did with the Pickens touchdown, and Matt Canada maybe opens up the offense, which, the Fire Canada chants are still going. I mean, they were happening at hockey games yesterday, supposedly. So, at a Penguins game. So, yeah. I just, the Steelers' offense is what's going to hold this team back. I mean, listen, that was a huge win on Sunday, and they're definitely going to be a team that's going to hang around, but I right now I just don't look at them as the division favorites, but we'll see. The AFC South is very interesting because no one's really running away with it. It was just reported that Anthony Richardson is going to miss, I think, 4 to 8 weeks with the shoulder injury, so that's unfortunate. So Gardner Minshew is going to have to play quarterback moving forward, and he's done a nice job. And they got Jonathan Taylor back. Like I said, no one's really running away with this thing. The Jags are 3-2. I still look at them as the favorites. I think they're still the best team. The Texans, they lost a tough game to the Falcons on Sunday, but they're 2-3. They're hanging around. C.J. Stroud is playing very well. So, and they destroyed the Jags a couple weeks ago. So, they got a shot. And the Titans, I look at the Titans as like the last place team right now. Obviously they did beat the Bengals a couple weeks ago, but against the Colts, it wasn't really good. DeAndre Hopkins had a very good game, but Derrick Henry really didn't do anything in the game, and I don't really trust Ryan Tannehill at this point. I think the Titans, that's going to be the team that ultimately finishes in last place, but we'll see. But they did lose to the Colts. So and that's a divisional game. So, and especially with it being the divisions being very close, it's going to come down to those, your divisional record if all the records are around the same. Because right now, one game separates all these teams. You got 2 teams that are 3-2 and 2 teams that are 2-3. So, yeah, and then you go over to the AFC West, and right now it's the Chiefs leading the way at 4-1. You got the Chargers who are 2-2. They're going to be coming back from their bye. Going to be playing Dallas on Monday. The Raiders are 2-3, and the Broncos are 1-4. And obviously the Chiefs and the Broncos are playing each other tomorrow night, which we will talk about tomorrow, obviously. So that's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, this is the Chiefs' division to win. Chargers, I look at them as a wild card team. Raiders and Broncos, I think they're going to be on the outside looking in. But we'll see. Maybe the Broncos shock the world tomorrow. Probably not. But we'll get into that tomorrow. So now let's go over to the NFC. Right now you got the Eagles leading the way in the East at 5-0. Cowboys 3-2. Washington 2-3. Giants 1-4. I think the Eagles are going to win the division. I just think they're the best team, of course. The defense, I'm a little worried about them. The back end. They've been giving up a lot of points. Washington, they got into a shootout with them. I'm a little worried about the defense. But offense looks good. They're running the ball well with DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell. And, of course, Jalen Hurts is playing really well, too. A.J. Brown's getting more involved in the offense. So that I don't want to say meltdown, but that little, argument on the sideline against Tampa a couple weeks ago. Since then, A.J. Brown's been insane. So they're getting him the ball. But, yeah, I look at them as the best team. Dallas, I mean, they probably get in as a wild card still, but we'll see. And then I don't really expect the Giants. Well, the Giants definitely not. We'll talk about them later in the show. Washington, I mean, listen, they're 2-3. Sam Howell, he's shown flashes. I mean, the other day he had a rough start to the game against the Bears, but, I mean, he almost passed for 400 yards. He's looked okay. He's looked okay for the Commanders, so we'll see what happens there. We can move on to the NFC North. Lions, I mean, right now they're the favorites. I mean, they're going to win the division. The Vikings and the Bears, I don't expect them to catch up to them. And the Packers, right now, they're the other night definitely makes me concerned with them moving forward. And as my dog starts barking, so yeah, Packers are 2-3, and they're going into the bye week. And then after that, they come out and play Denver. But yeah, the Lions right now are the team to beat in that division. Then we move on to the NFC South. The Bucs lead the way at 3-1. I mean, I think it's going to be between them and the Saints for the division. The Falcons, they had a good game on Sunday, of course, beating the Texans. But, Desmond Ridder, I don't really trust. The Falcons are good when they're playing with a lead. But, and I think if they had to throw the ball more than running it, then, that's going to be a problem. But, what the Falcons actually are, they're a good home team. 3-0 at home, 0-2 on the road. So that kind of tells you, again, it's only 5 games, but still. But I look at the Bucs and the Saints as the two teams that are going to be battling it out for the division. And already the Bucs have a leg up on them when they won against them in New Orleans a couple weeks ago. So, and Panthers are 0-5. They're not going to go anywhere this year. Then we go to the NFC West. I mean, it's the 49ers division. I mean, the Seahawks and the Rams, they could definitely be wild cards. They're in that wild card conversation. I mean, the Seahawks are 3-1. They're playing well offensively, and of course, I mean, they had the 11 sacks against the Giants. They're going to be playing the Bengals, so that's a big game. It's going to be a good game. And then the Rams, they play the Cardinals this week, so they can maybe get themselves back to 500. Cardinals are 1-4, and now they're without James Conner, so that's going to be, their offense is going to struggle even more now, and you saw that a little bit in the Bengals game when they played them on Sunday. So so that's when it comes to division, and then we'll just run through the wild card standings really quickly. So you got the Colts, the Ravens, and the Bills. They have the 3 spots in the AFC right now. Browns and Chargers, they're a half game back. And then a lot of teams are 1 game back. Texans, Titans, Jets, Raiders, Bengals, they're all 1 game back. And, of course, you got the Broncos and the Patriots, who are both 1-4. But doesn't look like they're – well, Patriots I don't think are going anywhere. Denver, yeah, they're definitely not going anywhere. So then we look at the NFC. The Seahawks, Falcons, and Cowboys, they have the 3 wild card spots. Saints are tied at 3-2 with the Falcons and the Cowboys, but they got the tiebreakers over them. And then you got the Packers, the Rams, the Commanders at 2-3, and then the rest of the teams are either 1-4 or 0-5. So, I could see the Rams sneaking in, especially with Cooper Kupp back, and as long as they could keep Matthew Stafford healthy because he's still dealing with injuries. The Saints, I could see them, getting in as a wild card team too, or winning the division, of course. Packers, I mean, what I saw on Monday was not good. So, but yeah, that's it when it comes to the standings. So with that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we are going to discuss the power rankings that were released from this week. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.